Welcome, everybody.
We are about to begin here in about 8 minutes. MC Slots, welcome. Welcome to Michael Campbell. Canadian Witches, welcome. I hope everybody's having an enjoyable night. Hey, Dreamwalking Angel, Wonder Pups, how's it going? Ray the Fam. Hope everybody's having a great night so far. Will Pompey, what's going on? I'm doing great. Hey, Canadian Witches, thank you so much.
Alright. I changed my voice back to normal. Gina, what's going on? You guys can hear the music, right? Is it too loud? Sorry guys, is it too loud? Can you guys hear me clearly? Perfect. Guys, we got about a couple minutes. Yeah, Wonder Pup, I'm going to be starting in just a couple minutes. I'm still sending all these, I'm still tweeting this out. Hey, Rich Bedford, how's it going? Hey, Kelsey's Paranormal. Alrighty, you guys. Alrighty, guys. Welcome to the show. Let me get my video capture device on and ready. Let's see, there we are. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad that you guys like the music. I'm so glad that you're enjoying this stream so far. And tonight we are going to be doing
Scary stories told in the dark.
So I hope you enjoy, guys. And we are going to be getting started here soon. I just shared this out. If you guys can please help me by sharing this stream out, getting the word out that this stream is going on right now. Hey, it's Deborah. The fam is in the house. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Awesome, guys. I'm so excited. This is such a cool platform to be able to put my live shows on and have all the effects. This is what I've always wanted, is to have an effective computer to be able to do exactly this. Hey, White Wolf, how's it going? Yeah, the channel has seriously evolved. I put a lot of hard work and effort into really growing my channel and making it what it is today, with live investigations, with paranormal episodes, which I'm still having to work on a couple. Eric Garcia is in the house. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Thank you so much, Canadian Witches. I really appreciate it. Paranormal Voices is in the chat. Thank you so much. We are going to be getting started here with the scary stories tonight. And let me get those up so I can get those ready. Tonight, we should do some Halloween stories. What do you guys think about that? Alrighty, guys. Boomer! What's up? Jenny Mersith, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Wow. Awesome crowd, guys. Thank you so much for the 14 people watching. I really appreciate it. Hope I said hello to everybody. Who's that Boomer fella, right? Kelsey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You can tell I'm really appreciative right now. I just want to say thank you to everybody because y'all are awesome. Alright, guys. Alright, this one is... So these are stories? This one is called The Halloween Mask. There was a boy named Lenny who loved Halloween. It was his favorite holiday. He always tried to celebrate it in style. Every year, he would save up his money to buy the best mask and the best costumes, the best decorations. This year was no different. Lenny was getting ready to go to a Halloween party at his friend's house. He got all dressed up in a shaggy black coat, black boots, and a long flowing cape. He put on his Halloween mask and admired himself in the mirror. The scariest thing was, it was the most hideous mask he had ever seen. He was so sure that everybody at the party would be terrified when they set their eyes on it. He would be the envy of all of his friends. When Lenny turned up at his house, the party was already in full swing. He could hear the dull sound of the music coming from behind the door. He rang the doorbell and his friends answered it. She greeted him and ushered him inside. He looked around the living room. Some people were dancing and other people were talking and laughing and drinking and nibbling on the buffet. There was witches and ghosts, skeletons, vampires, and zombies. None of the masks were very scary, but Lenny was sure he had the best one. He stood there and waited for somebody to comment on the mask, but nobody paid any attention to him. He was very disappointed. He wandered around the room as he tried to give everybody a good view of the mask. He wanted them to be scared. He wanted to cause a stir. One girl tapped him on the shoulder and started to ask him, "Who are you supposed to be?" she asked. Lenny tried to reply, but he found he could not move his mouth. The mask felt too tight. He was embarrassed. He turned away into the kitchen and got himself a glass of Halloween punch. He tried to pull off the mask so he could drink, but it wouldn't budge. It seemed to be stuck fast to his face. He pulled and tugged on it, but no matter what he did, he could not get it off. Lenny was starting to get worried. It was hot outside, and Lenny found himself sweating underneath the mask. He needed to get it off. He needed to get it off now. Grabbing a knife from the kitchen drawer, he went into the toilet and locked the door behind him. He looked in the mirror and started scratching and tearing at the mask, but it really hurt. If it was a mask, it was firmly stuck to his skin. Getting desperate, he took a knife and sliced into the mask, cutting off little strips of rubber and tossing them into the sink. Gradually, a queue formed outside of the toilet, and people started to get impatient, knocking on the door. "What's going on in there?" Lenny was in a panic. He tried peeling off the rest of the mask, but was stubbornly stayed in place. He couldn't understand what was going wrong. So, what if it wouldn't come off, he wondered. Is it stuck on my face forever? He began hacking at the mask and ripping it off in little bits. More and more people were banging on the door. "Come on," they shouted. "Why are you in there?" From inside the toilet, they heard Lenny shrieking, "It won't come off, my mask! It won't come off!" The people gathered outside of the toilet gave each other worried looks. One of the girls puzzled, "A mask?" But he wasn't wearing a mask. Ray the Fam, Jelly Duck, what is up? Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, what's up, SSAWWS? Swas? How did you guys like that story? Yeah, just like the mask. I'm gonna grab some coffee, guys, because this is gonna be a couple hour stream. So I'll be right back, guys. Because it's always safe to have a double shot of espresso before you go to bed. But that's okay. Yeah, that's the whole story. I know, that was a great story. So he wasn't wearing a mask. Sounds like not even good enthusiasm, John, but it was a good story, lol. I don't see David Omen anywhere. Wait, were people saying hi to David? Night, Jenny. Take care. Have a good night. Oh, it's going good. All right. Okay. Trying to find a good one here. Bill and Mabel disregarded the tall tales that they had heard about their neighbors. They didn't believe in ghosts and weren't about to start now, but some silly neighbors believed in the paranormal. But Mabel was curious about the history of the house, so she contacted the real estate agent and told them that she had heard odd stories about the house being haunted. The realtor said, by law, he should have disclosed the history of the house. And apparently, there have been a string of horrible murders inside the house performed by an insane serial killer. Hey, Anna Mendez, how's it going? The murders were only discovered after the killer had actually died. He had been smoking in bed, and when he fell asleep, he accidentally dropped the cigarette on the bed sheets. The bed caught fire and he burned alive without ever waking up. His corpse had lain undiscovered in the house for years. Eventually, the police broke in and found his decomposing body laying on the bed. They dug up the garden and found the remains of his victims. The story unnerved Mabel, and she began to have nightmares about the killer. She told her husband that she was beginning to believe the stories of the hauntings that could be true. Mabel frequently complained about the feeling that somebody was in the room that night, and sometimes she would even wake up suddenly during the night. Convinced that she had felt cold, bony hands touching her. Bill thought Mabel was just being silly, but to keep his wife happy, he promised to stay up all night and keep watch over her. Bill was confident that Bill was confident that if she woke up after feeling the cold, bony hands and nobody was there, she would realize that it was all in her imagination. To his word, Bill stayed up the whole night. Around midnight, the room began to feel uncomfortably warm, and he was gripped by the feeling of he was gripped by an overwhelming thirst. Leaving Maple sleeping softly, he went downstairs to the kitchen to get some water. Upstairs in the darkened room, Mabel awoke with a start. She heard footsteps outside the door, and she came into the room. She assumed it was her husband Bill, but when she leaned over to give him a kiss, her lips touched something else cold and bony. Bill heard the most horrible screaming coming from Mabel's room. He rushed upstairs and screamed in horror at what he had found. Mabel's dead body was laid stretched over the bed, her face twisted in an expression of utter terror. Bill rushed downstairs and he called the police. Several nights later, Bill was sleeping peacefully until around midnight. Again, to feel thirsty, he went downstairs again. Upstairs, he was surprised to find a large lump in his bed. It was moving. He ripped off the bed sheets. The ghost of Mabel stood up in bed, her tears in her eyes. Her cheeks were hollow and sunken, and the dark form of another man crouched beside her, a terrible skeletal man with the face of a desecrated corpse. The skeleton man clutched Mabel's head and his The skeleton man clutched Mabel's head and his cold, bony grasp forced her to kiss him. Tears streamed down Mabel's face. In her hand, she had the biggest knife Bill had ever seen. "Don't you promise, Billy? Don't you promise? Till death do we part? Don't you promise?" screamed Mabel. As she floated towards and frightened and paralyzed Bill. Yeah, these stories get pretty crazy, guys. Yeah, she sounds pretty crazy, right? All right. Oh, sent me a true story on Twitter. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa Dawson, for tweeting this out. I really appreciate it. Same with Kelsey. All right. Deborah the Fam has posted a scary story to read. God, this is going to be really small print. Okay, I'll grab that link from Twitter. Let's see. Whoop. Let me grab the Twitter link here because I want to be able to read it in full form instead of having to read it off my phone. Okay, so this one is about the West Plains, Missouri dance hall explosion in April of 1928. 36 killed and 18 injured by an explosion and a fire. Seek more bodies in fiery ruins. 19 bodies lay lying in one morgue and 17 in another. Gasoline explosions, many victims blown considerable distance from the hall. West Plains, Missouri, April 14th. The death toll of the explosion, which had wrecked the crowded dance hall late that night, mounted to 36. As rescuers worked to recover the body from the smoldering ruins of the structure, 18 persons were injured, and the property damage exceeded $250,000. Bodies from the 36 dead were recovered. 19 rested today in one morgue and 17 in another. Officials are in charge at the scene of the explosion feared there might be more bodies found in the ruins. 40 couples were dancing. 30 to 40 couples were dancing when the blast had came. It was the regular Friday night of West Plains' younger set. Among the merry makers, there were many of the prominent young men and women of West Plains. At 11:30, the dance was at its height. Three-piece orchestra was nearing. Home Sweet Home, Miss Dimples Martin at the piano was pounding away out the strains of a popular melody. Nobody remembers the name. At that moment, J.N. Windsor, owner of the building, opened the back door of the garage on the floor below. A motorist had called from his home to a supply store to supply some gasoline. As the garage door swung open, there was a thunder and a terrific explosion. The floor of the dance hall The floor of the dance hall was almost lifted to the ceiling. A moment of terrible silence followed. Sorry, this is getting kind of hard to read because this website has these like lines. It's tripping my eyes out. Let's see. Okay, the floor crashed into fragments into the raging gasoline-fed furnace below. It was... I can't read this because my eyes are... This website's like playing tricks on me. Hey, Foxy Escapes. Let me try to maybe minimize this so the lines aren't... Okay, there we go. Sorry, my eyes were getting messed up from reading that with those lines. Okay. Fragments into a raging gasoline red furnace below. It was forms of a score of humans who, at that moment, had been carefree dancers. Some were blown through the windows and survived. 3 or 4 were able to crawl away from the hungry flames to safety. Others were blown free of the ruins of the street. Cut and mangled, burned and bleeding. Pianist believed to be killed instantly. Ball Allen, the trombone player, was sitting next to her, blown through the window and lived. The third member of the orchestra also believed to have perished. The blast awoke farmers for a radius of 3 miles, and the leaping flames guided them to the scene of the disaster. As explosion from gasoline garage is generally blamed for the catastrophe, Windsor was not found far from the wreckage. His hands grimy, holding the doorknob of the shattered garage. Nobody seems to know what happened to the motorist. Common belief prevails that Windsor must have lit the match into the fumes of the escaping gasoline. Yeah, that's pretty scary. What's up, Lisa Dawson? How you doing? 22 people watching. TJ Smith is in the house. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really appreciate it, as always. If you haven't already, please consider sharing this out. But yeah, guys, that was a true story. Bunch of people died in that explosion back in the 1920s. Super duper sad. Hey, Jessica, how you doing? Welcome. How are you? You can still see the burn marks on the floor next to the dance hall? Wow. Hey, what's up, Sharpshooter? How you doing, bro? You're already leaving, man? Sorry you can't stay. Hope you're alright, man. Hey, Haunted Jim in the house. What's up, bro? Alright, guys. Let me get the next story here. Hey, Leon Ladybug is in the house. What is up? Aw, very nice. Tell your daughter I said hello. We are doing scary ghost stories in the dark. Yes, we are doing a Halloween special. And Joe and I kind of talked about it on Presence of the Unknown. So if you want to find out where we're doing it, you can go over to Presence of the Unknown and listen to our live stream / podcast that we did earlier. It's gonna be pretty epic. Yes, guys, please hit that like button, share this out if possible. It'd be really helpful. 22 people watching. Thank you guys so much. All right, let's find another story. Do the Truckee region with the Donner Party history. Well, we already got a place set. I eventually really want to go up to Donner, but it's probably not going to be this time of the year since it's getting way too cold. Have a good night, Kelsey. Much love and light. Take care. Thank you so much for joining. Let's see how long this story is. 6 minutes. Okay. Sorry, the chat's going a little quick right now. I'm trying to say, okay, everybody's saying goodbye, Kelsey. Have a great rest of your night. Take care. Prayers to you and your father. Alright, so this one is called Hand of Glory. On a moonless night, at the stroke of midnight, a thief slipped into the deserted courtyard to make his way to the hangman's gallows. The corpse of a murderer was dangling from the noose, twisting in the wind. The thief took out a sharp knife out of his pocket, making sure nobody was watching, and began to saw off the dead man's hand. When his grisly task was finished, the thief wrapped the severed hand in the burial shroud and stuffed it into his pocket. Then he climbed to the gibbet and cut off 5 locks of hair of the dead man's head. Finally, he climbed down and disappeared into the night. When he returned to his hideout, he began preparing the severed hand. He squeezed it until all the blood was gone. Next, he dripped it into animal fat and let it out to dry in the midday sun. He twisted the locks of hair into candle wicks and dripped them from the wax and allowed them to set. Then he screwed the wicks into the 4 fingers and the thumb of the dried hand. At least the hand of glory was complete. High on the windy hills of Yorkshire, on Bowes Moor, sat the old Spittle Inn. It was a stormy night in late October of 1797. The landlord and his wife were preparing for bed. The butler and the cook had locked the doors and the windows, when suddenly they heard a loud banging on the front door. The curious servant girl, who slept in the kitchen, was peering through a crack in the kitchen door. She wondered who could be visiting her master at this time of the night. In the hallway, she saw her master and the butler greeting the bent, wizened old woman. She was dressed in a long cloak and a hood and obstructed her face. Shivering and shaking from the cold and rain, the beggar woman pleaded with the landlord to let her stay for the night. Being a generous man, the landlord told her that she could spend the night on the bench in front of the fire. Hey, Dakota and family, how's it going? Hey, Michael Campbell, welcome. Thank you so much. After the lord and his wife, the butler and the cook had gone to bed, the servant girl heard noises coming from the bedroom. Looking through the keyhole, she saw an old woman standing and lifting her cloak to reveal a large pair of man's boots. Instantaneously, the servant girl became suspicious, decided to keep an eye on the stranger. She saw the old woman pull off the hood to reveal a scarred and embittered face of a hardened criminal. From beneath the cloak, the thief took out a grotesque severed hand and placed it on the bench. He lit the stiff, bony fingers of the hand, and the terrifying servant girl watched in horror as the thief was beginning to recite an ancient spell. All those who listen and dwell in this house, hear ye words of the dead man's spell. Unlock every door at the dead man's knock. Open bolt and band with the dead man's hand. Sleep all who sleep, let none here wake. Sleep like the dead for the dead man's sake. The thief finished his incantation, and the fingers of the severed hand glowed with intense brilliant light. Each finger flamed, but the thumb would not light. The thief hadn't seen the little servant girl and thought there might only be 4 people in the house, so he gave up trying to light the thumb. Instead, he went to the door and opened it, letting the other 2 men who were lurking outside. Gathering around the flaming hand, the thief began murmuring over and over again, "Hand of glory, shining bright, lead us to the spoils tonight." While the thief was busy filling their sacks with valuables, The frightened little servant girl tiptoed into the butler's quarters and tried to wake him and alert him to the danger. But no matter how hard she tried, she could not shake him from his deep slumber. Then she went to the cook's bedroom and tried to wake her, but it was no use. Finally, she slipped up the stairs and went into the landlord's bedroom. She found her master's wife laying in bed, eyes wide open, staring lifelessly into space. They seemed to be in some kind of a trance. Ray the Fam's in the house. Welcome. The little girl realized that the hand of glory must have cast some kind of spell over the household. So she crept down the stairs again, grabbing the flaming hand and brought it into the kitchen. She took a deep breath and tried to blow out the burning fingers, but she couldn't extinguish them. Suddenly, she had an idea. Grabbing a jug of skimmed milk that was sitting by the table, she poured it over the grotesque hand, and the milk quenched the burning wicks, and the spell was broken. She was able to creep upstairs and rouse the landlord and his wife. She shook the butler and cook until they were wide awake. The landlord came running down the stairs with a pistol in his hand as the cook stumbled wearily out of the rooms, rubbing his hands. They were able to surprise the thieves and force them to the door at gunpoint when they slammed the door behind them and locked it. The thieves began to circle the house and banged on the windows and doors. "Give us back our hand of glory," they exclaimed. "Give us the hand and we'll go away quietly. No harm to anybody." The landlord knew the thieves were lying, so he threw open his bedroom window and began to fire his pistol into the blackened street. The screams and cries of the robbers echoed through the darkness as they fled into the night. In the morning, a pool of blood was found outside the cobblestones. A little servant girl was able to identify the thieves that help police track them down. The whole gang was caught and tried for their crimes. They were sentenced to death and hanged at the gallows till they were dead. The hand of glory was confiscated by the police. Their corpses were left hanging from the gibbet overnight, and the police returned in the morning. They were shocked to discover that someone had stolen during the night and cut off all the dead man's hands. What do you guys think about that story? Sorry that one was a little bit long. Sorry for interrupting, but your story. My name is Jason. We are Bowens on Facebook, and my last name starts with the letter L. Oh, okay. I think I know who you are. Yeah, I'm a friend of yours on Facebook. I got you. Power came back on. Woo! Christine and Son Ghost Squad. Power came back on. Awesome. Hey, Native Grammy, how's it going? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, man. Alrighty, guys. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to check something real quick. How did you guys enjoy last night's investigation of the Masonic Cemetery with the new SLS camera? I want to hear your guys' thoughts. If you haven't seen it, you guys gotta go check it out. It's pretty wild. Doing well, getting ready for work. Hope you're doing good. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm glad that you're getting ready for work. I hope you have a good night at work. And yeah, I've been doing good. Just trying to relax. And my back's been kind of killing me today, but I got my good chair here, so it's not hurting as bad. I know the spirits were pretty wild last night at that cemetery, and I caught them on the SLS camera. That was pretty cool. That live was incredible. Love the connect. Right? That was so sweet how that actually showed up with the stick figures, and it was dead on accurate. Like, I was asking questions and it was responding. It was pretty crazy. It was amazing. I totally agree. Trying to read back through the chat, see if anybody's here. All right, guys. That one was dancing. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Do you guys still like this layout, or do you think it needs to be changed? Is it too much, or is it just amount of right stuff on here? Yes, and the little disabled boy David, who was 7, God bless him. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, that was incredible. There was that little child spirit. His name was David. That's what he announced himself as. And somebody, I think it was Citizen Z, had said, "There's nothing about there. Well, there's nothing in the box next to you. Uh, take it out or make it bigger." The box next to me, it displays the chat every time the chat comes up, so that's why I have that kind of blank box. It doesn't always show any as much, um, but when the chat does go up, you guys do see it go in that black box. That's what that one's for. um, I mean, what this software is really meant for is for gamers, but I found it useful for doing my live shows because it lets me like have animations and lets it look more professional. It's actually the same kind of software that they use. Um, it's actually the same kind of software that the news stations use to broadcast onto TV. So that's why I find OBS and Streamlabs pretty awesome. Thank you to everybody who's already shared this out. I really appreciate it. I gotta share this out on my community post. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. You're a busy man here on YouTube today. Yeah, I'm always busy, guys. I've done 2 live shows, this one and the one this morning on Presence of the Unknown. On my days off, I crunch on YouTube. Like, it's the only time of the week I can actually do it is on my days off. I try to stay as busy as possible. Tomorrow, I'm going to be working on finishing that first video. It's almost done. I'm going to be working pretty tirelessly to get that one finished. Uh, pretty much done with live streams. I should have that video out by next week before we go on our Halloween special. So look forward to that. That video is probably going to be about, I want to say, 30 to 45 minutes long. I've got about 20 minutes of it already edited. So yeah, it's a lot of work to have a successful channel, and I try to put the effort in. You got this, John. You can do it, right? Yeah, I try to stay busy on YouTube. I love this platform. It's such a great way to be creative, yet have fun and get to be you, I guess is the way of saying it. But yeah, YouTube has really let me kind of be me, I guess is the way to say it. All right, so enough about that. ... Time to get on to the next stories. All right. On a bright moonlight in small Yorkshire village, a postman named Mr. Mullins was on his way home. As he was walking past the graveyard, he caught something caught his attention. He noticed a luminous, glowing nit coming from one of the graves. It was a fresh grave of a villager named Peters who had recently died. He looked closer. He realized that it was a large, slimy blob that crawled out of the grave, and it was wriggling back and forth as it had emerged. It looked like a large, luminous maggot. Ghastly thing seemed to exude pure evil. With a mixture of horror and fascination, Mr. Mullins watched the maggot slither along the ground, leaving the gleaming trail of disgusting slime behind it. Snaking in and out of the tombstones, the monstrous thing crawled from the graveyard. When it came to the Visker's house nearby and disappeared from sight. The following day, Mr. Mullins told his wife and his best friend about the chilling experience. That night, all three of them decided to go to the graveyard. They wanted to see if they could figure out what this hideous apparition could be. They waited and waited, and just like the night before, the dreadful worm oozed out of Peter's grave and made its way towards the cemetery. Out of the cemetery. As they watched, the thing crawled into the door of the Visker's house again and disappeared. The next day, the Mullins and their friend got a severe shock when they heard the Visker and his entire family became ill. As hours ticked by, their condition only grew worse, and by sunset, Visker and his entire family were dead. The doctor who examined them said they died of tonamine poisoning. This was the type of poisoning that was caused by exposure to a putrefying corpse. Mullins, his wife, and their friend determined to get to the bottom of this terrible and horrific apparition's origin. After dark, ding, that night, they ventured once again into the village graveyard to keep watch again. As before, the hideous glowing maggot wriggled out of the grave and slithered between the tombstones, leaving a trail of slime in its wake. At this time they followed it, and they saw it go into the house of the village blacksmith. It got in the front door and suddenly vanished. The next morning, the blacksmith and his whole family became ill. And just like the vicar and his family, they died before sunset of tonamine poisoning. Frightened and more baffled than ever before, Mullins and his companions decided to keep watch again, but nothing happened. Although they were relieved, they decided to continue their nightly vigil at the graveyard for another week, just in case. 10 nights since it had first appeared, the glowing maggot from the grave again crawled out of the graveyard. Mr. Mullins realized their horror that it was going in the direction of their house. They followed it, and when the maggot got to the front door of their house, it disappeared. The couple was horrified and ran into their house. Looking, they found no trace of the maggot, and they went upstairs to find their 5-year-old son sleeping in bed. The couple breathed a sigh of relief and went downstairs. Next morning, however, the Mullins and his wife went to wake their son. They found out he was extremely sick. The little boy was seized by a fit of vomiting, and within the hour he was dead. Stricken with grief and filled with anger, Mullins and his wife wanted revenge. The grave the maggot had crawled out of was a man named Peters. After asking around and found out in life Peters had been mean, vicious, and distasteful man. He made life miserable for his neighbors, and particularly disliked for the vicar and the blacksmith. That night they paid another visit to the graveyard, and at this time they were armed with shovels and gasoline. They dug up the grave of Peters and pulled out the coffin and cracked open the lid. Holding the lanterns, they peered inside and saw the face of the corpse. Mr. Peters grinned back at them. His body had not decayed at all, and there was a look of malevolence and intense evil frozen on his twisted face. They took one look at him and slammed down the lid in horror. After regaining their nerves, he dragged the coffin into the nearby field, threw back the lid, and poured the gasoline all over the corpse. Mullen struck a match and threw it on top of the corpse as it burst into flames. Hey, history to history, hashtag Nation 13. How's it going? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm doing good, man. Good to see you, Kevin. Mullins and his wife stood there watching the blaze until the coffin and the corpse inside were reduced to ashes. After scattering his remains with a shovel and sprinkling them with holy water, they returned to the grave and filled it in again. Although they kept vigil for several days afterward, the strange glowing maggot of doom was never seen again. Yes, I just realized that. I'm still getting used to the name. Histories and Mysteries. Awesome. So there you guys go of the glowing worm of doom. Hope you guys enjoyed that story. I'm doing good after dark. After dark is my favorite thing to do. This is the stream that I take the most pride in, because this is the longest stream I have kept. It's because this is my most enjoyable. I love scary stories, and why not tell them to an audience? I might not be the best reader in the world, but I think I need glasses is my issue. My eyes strain, and that makes it hard for me to read. And I'm on the computer all the time. If not here at work, I'm on the computer all the time too. Ray the fam. Oh, not much. Just doing scary stories in the dark. Yeah, that's what I need to get is anti-glare. So my work just actually covered my vision insurance, so I'm gonna be getting glasses soon. I have astigmatism, whatever that means. Um, I have 20/20 vision, but I guess one eye strains more than the other, and I've been told that I need glasses. So get ready for a new look. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. Kevin, are you still here in California, man? We gotta meet up. You should come up here to the Central Coast. Actually, I'll be in Southern California in 2 weeks. I'll be in LA for Halloween. I don't know if you're doing anything, but I'll hit you up on Facebook. All right. There was a young woman who decided to visit a psychic because she was curious about the life that she had in store for her. Although she didn't really believe in fortune telling, she thought it would be fun to have her fortune be told. She arrived at the psychic's house and was greeted at the door by an old lady in a ragged shawl. The psychic ushered her inside and led her down a hallway into a darkened room and sat her at the table. Can you really tell my fortune? Asked the woman. Of course. Just show me your palm. The woman held out her hand at the psychic, examined it closely, frowning in concentration. There was a very long silence, and the young woman became uncomfortable, and suddenly the psychic, with a very pale face, very pale in the face, and gave the woman a strange look. Is there something wrong? The woman asked nervously. The psychic refused to answer any questions and told the woman it was late and that she wanted to go home. There would be no charge for the palm reading. The woman was worried and began to ask questions, but no matter how much she begged, the psychic wouldn't tell a word. The woman began insisting, but the psychic shook her head and saying the session was over. Finally, the young woman grew angry and the psychic relented. She took out a pen and paper and wrote something down. She folded it up and put it in an envelope and handed it to the young woman. Do not read this until you get home tonight, she said. The woman was relieved and stuffed the envelope into her pocket and thanked the psychic and paid her for her services. They said goodbye and the woman left, thinking about the mysterious note and what it could possibly contain. As the woman crossed the road, she was in deep thought. She wasn't looking to where she was going and walked into the path of an oncoming car. The vehicle slammed into her, tossing her in the air like a rag doll. Her broken body bounced along the road a few times, finally coming to a rest in a crumpled, motionless heap. The police arrived and pronounced the woman dead on scene. While raffling through her pockets looking for identification, officer came across an envelope and he read it he opened it and began to read it. The note inside consisted in 4 words: "You have no future." Oh, I'm so glad you like the lives. Hey, right side of Floyd, what is up? Sacramento alien, but shh. You're an alien? Nice. Hey, Erica Sheldon. The longer you delay getting to the appointment with the eye doctor, the worse it's gonna be. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I need to get to my appointment ASAP. Soon as I get the vision insurance card, I'm gonna go do that for sure. go get glasses ASAP. Because they have a vision place right at Costco. So I'm probably just going to get it done at Costco since I have... What does the note say? Question mark. What did the note say? Question mark. Your volume is too low. Are you guys having a hard time reading me? Is this a little bit better? I'm sorry. The note said, you have no future. Yeah, I will feel better once it's done. I think this is a little bit better. I tried turning it up a little bit. Should be a little bit better. I don't know what's going on. It's probably because I got it hooked to voice mod instead of my traditional mic. So I
could do this.
Hey, Citizen Z, what is up? Okay, perfect. Hope you guys are enjoying the live stream so far. If you guys haven't already, please consider sharing this out. Well over 100 views in the first hour. Thank you guys so much for that. Let's see. 126 views. Right on, guys. Thank you so much. Right. Woohoo! You just hit 600 subscribers. Awesome. Guys, if you don't have Right Side of Floyd, go check out his channel. Go subscribe. My biggest issue is the energy efficient light bulbs. I think they're causing a lot of eye problems. Yeah, I think so too. Because they're almost too bright. Sometimes that soft light is really nice to have because it doesn't hurt your eyeballs. And I have a small studio, and so in order to get like effective lighting, I need to have bright lighting in here. And I think that's what also causes a strain on my eyes. I have the volume booster on. Okay, so my volume is still a little too low. It's probably because I'm talking a little bit farther away from my mic than I usually am because my back's hurting. But I can scoot up a little bit. Hopefully this helps a little bit more. 5G is messing all of us up. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of 5G. Ooh, Lisa Dawson just went and checked out Right Side of Floyd. Just going back and retweeting some of these people's posts. Carol out of her comfort zone, thank you so much for sharing this out. Okay, you guys can hear me? Cool. Alrighty, guys. So let's...
Can you hear me now, guys? Does this sound a little funny to you?
Alright. So now I can actually incorporate the voice changer, which is pretty cool.
Would you like to play a game?
Alright, let me get the chat back up. Much better. Very nice.
I can also change my voice to sound like a woman, too, for some of these stories.
Alright. I try to be entertaining. Jessica, that's funny. Ooh. This story is about teenagers who want to play with a Ouija board in a cemetery on Halloween night. Actually, funny thing that this just said that is I have been to the cemetery here on Halloween night, and there's always people dicking around with the Ouija board. I don't get it. Like, you're just asking for trouble. I'm like, have you ever, like, seen the spirits that are in this place? They're not the friendliest. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm already playing fire with doing a spirit box in the cemetery. But a Ouija board? I mean, it's kind of like, I guess the spirit box is like an electronic version of the Ouija board, but yeah, I mean, you're playing a dangerous game. All right, so as the story goes, a few years ago, a group of friends planned to spend Halloween night in the cemetery where they lived. There were two boys named Carlos and Miguel, and two girls named Paula and uh, Rocio. They were all 16 years old. Finally, initially, when they heard the idea, the girls refused to go. Paula said that she had bad feeling about it. However, the boys convinced them to change their minds. Whoa, just went out into my warm car and 6 elk were in the driveway. What? Finally, on Halloween night, they all arrived at Miguel's house and drove to the cemetery together. Right? They sell them I think they sell them at Toys R Us, or is it Walmart in the kids section with like the Stranger Things vibe? I don't get it. Like, why would you market something that bad for kids? You just gained a couple bucks. Yeah, I don't have elk here in Sacramento. Yeah. Finally, the Halloween night had arrived and met at Miguel's house and drove to the cemetery together. And when they arrived, there was so much fog that they could hardly see. It was kind of like me last night at the cemetery. The cemetery gates were locked. Standing outside, they heard strange and eerie sounds coming from the graveyard. The girls were scared and suggested that they go home. Rocio said that she was regretting agreeing to the idea in the first place because she had a feeling that something terrible was going to happen, but the boys refused to let her leave. Don't worry, baby, scoffed Miguel. We didn't travel this far just to look at a cemetery gates and go home. It's Halloween, the devil's night. Carlos was about to climb the cemetery gates when he grabbed the back of the metal bars. He swung the gate open in front of him with an ominous creak. Suddenly, he heard the bells of the nearby chapels striking midnight. In the distance, a dog howled at the moon obstructed by the clouds. The winds rose up and began to wrestle through the trees. Miguel took out his Ouija board from under his coat. It's time to summon the spirits, he said with a mischievous grin. Don't worry, it's just a game, said Carlos, trying to reassure the two girls. Nothing will happen. There's nothing to be scared of. The group of teenagers walked in the cemetery, and when they reached a small tomb in the middle, they had stopped. Miguel laid down the Ouija board on top of the cold stone and gathered all around it. They placed the fingers on the planchette, and Miguel called out to the spirits to contact them. A few moments later, the pointer began to move and make contact with the spirit. It claimed to be a ghost of a girl named Sarita, who was buried in the cemetery. The boys and girls asked the spirits many questions, and they were spelled out on the board. Hey, Jay Lawler, how's it going? All of a sudden, Rico felt something cold and clammy grab onto her wrist. She let out a horrific scream. The teenagers were spooked and decided to end the game, but the spirit of the girl told them not to. The spirit told them they needed to keep playing, otherwise everybody would die. Miguel ignored the spirit's warning and snapped the Ouija board shut. When they were about to leave, it suddenly became very dark. The teenagers could barely see anything in the cemetery. A strong wind had risen and blew through the tombstones, and statues fell from their perches and shattered on the ground. When they saw this, they began to run. She couldn't see anything and stumbled blindly into the darkness. She accidentally tripped and fell into an open grave. She landed on her head and broke her neck. Carlos ran through the cemetery gates and stumbled into the road. Suddenly, a car came out from around the corner, killing him instantly and squashing his body into a bloody mess. Pickle and Miguel managed to get back to the safety of their homes. Paloma was so scared that she decided to take a bath and calm herself down before she went to bed. However, when she was in the bathtub, she accidentally bumped her cell phone and knocked it into the water. Unfortunately, her cell phone was plugged into the charger, and she was electrocuted. Next morning, Miguel woke up and went downstairs for breakfast. His parents were waiting to tell him the bad news. Miguel was surprised and frightened to learn the death of all of his friends. He knew he was next, but he didn't know what to do. Fearing for his life, he decided to get away. He went straight to the airport and took the first flight to Argentina. He was shaking with fear, but he managed to board the airplane without any incident. However, when the plane took off, the engines failed and crashed into the sea. His body was never discovered. Have a good night, Lisa. Take care. Fearing for his life, he was desperate to get away. He went straight to the his body was never discovered. Okay. Legend has it, after those incidents, no one ever dared to visit that cemetery on Halloween night. Yeah, that's a pretty scary story right there. Whew. Hope you guys are enjoying. No problem, Lisa. You have a good rest of your night. Take care, and take care of that 3-year-old. I'm reading Scary Halloween Stories. Once there was a woman who lived in a quaint house in the country. Her husband had passed away about 5 years back, and she was planning on moving soon. One day, while packing up her husband's things, she was planning on... One day, while packing her husband's things, she noticed the temperature had dropped really, really low. She walked down the hall to check the thermostat, But when she got there, she noticed there was no difference in temperature. She thought about it, but figured it must have been broken. She decided that she would call someone the next day to fix it. When she pressed on the mirror on the wall on her way back, she thought she saw some movements in the reflection. The temperature suddenly returned to normal, and when she looked back at the mirror, nothing was there. She shrugged and went back to packing. Right? A couple of days later, the temperature dropped again. Again, the woman went to the thermostat and it showed no change. She remembered that she had forgotten to call someone to repair it. She promised herself that she would call after the show on TV she had been watching. When she passed the mirror again, she saw a movement in the shadows and she stopped. It was a reflection she saw in the shadow, but nothing but a shadow. Slightly translucent but visible. God, my eyes are terrible. The shape was indescribable. It changed shape like flowing water. It was the size of a tall person, and it stepped out from the wall behind the woman. She turned around to face it, and there was nothing there. Now she was scared. She began to tremble. Slowly, she turned back towards the mirror, and the figure was standing there, but closer. She screamed out,
"Help!" But no one came.
But no one came. Closer and closer it came. A few weeks later, a friend of the woman stopped by to say hello. She knocked on the door, but there was no answer. The next day, the policeman came over and went to investigate, but there was nothing to be found except for a few empty boxes and the TV being on. It was put as an unsolved case. The house was cleaned out and put up on the market for sale. Many years the house was empty and all the stories going in and out of that house. But one day, a small family consisting of a mother, a father, and a daughter moved from the city into the house. All was well until one day the temperature dropped in the house and the daughter went to her parents to ask them what had happened. They said they didn't know and that they went to the thermostat to see. It had no change in temperature. They went to call somebody. The doctor was playing back with her dolls in the room. The daughter went back to playing with her dolls in her room. She had looked up in the mirror and she had seen a shadow peeking from the reflection of her bed. And just then, her parents came to tell her that somebody was coming the next day to fix the thermostat, and that she would have to deal with it for a while. But when they had vanished, saying that the temperature was back to normal, the parents said, "Never mind." A few weeks later, the temperature dropped again, and the girl was brushing her hair this time in front of the mirror. She noticed a small shadow behind her, and it started to creep towards her. She screamed. Her parents came back and asked her what had happened. She told them that they told her that they didn't believe her. She tried to make them believe, but it was no use. They took her to a psychiatrist to ask for help. When she came home believing it was a figment of her imagination, she probably wouldn't have kept believing keep believing that except about a year later, the temperature dropped again. The girl was by herself and her parents had gone to the theater alone. Since she was 13, she was experimenting with makeup at the time. She was in front of her mother's mirror and stared out in terror as a thing was creeping from behind the bed. She trembled but did not call out. She no one would have come. And now, as it had been done before, the thing came closer and closer and closer. And closer and closer. When the girl's parents came home, they found the house empty and their daughter was nowhere to be found. The police report said it was another unsolved case, and the house still stands to this day. It's still on the market if you want to buy it. It's a real bargain. Hey, what's up, Josie's mom? Report on my daughter's channel. Hey, I didn't block anybody, Josie's mom BM. Oh. Yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Please don't come into my channel and start shit. Like, I really don't need it, and it's unnecessary, but I'm an e-bagger? Really? Okay. I can ask you to please leave respectfully. I didn't block her. I haven't blocked anybody. I've actually released a lot of people from my blocked list. I don't even know who your daughter is. I saw some disrespectful comments on my channel. There we go. Nerve of some people, I swear. Hold on, guys. Okay. Thank you, Irish. Appreciate it, bro. What do you mean, e-bagger? I don't understand that. I don't ask for money on my channel. Some stupid people, I swear. Alright. Yeah, no, I totally agree, Irish. Thank you for standing up. I appreciate it. Yeah, unfortunately, some people just can't be nice. Yeah, I'm not gonna take disrespect towards my friends or my family who watch my YouTube channel. I'm not gonna let people affect me like that. That's BS. Yeah, I don't know what she's talking about. Alright. Madman Stan. Okay. There were two boys named Billy and Richie. Their parents had gone out for the night and left them in the care of their babysitter. Their names were Agnes, or her name was Agnes, and the boys hated her. She was fat and ugly and stank of sweat and cigarettes, and her butt was so big that her pink sweatpants looked like they might burst at any moment. Time for bed, Agnes announced as soon as the parents left. But our parents allow us to stay up until 11 o'clock, Billy protested. Your parents aren't here anymore, Agnes said. I'm in charge, and what I say goes. Now stop arguing with me and go up to bed. You're a really rotten babysitter, Rich moaned. You're a pair of pretty rotten children, Agnes retorted. The two boys stood their ground and refused to budge. Okay then. If you won't go to bed, I got a surprise for you, Agnes said with a malicious grin. Something to cheer you up. What? Rich asked. A bedtime story, a really scary one. Do you want to hear it, don't you? You're not afraid, are you? Of course not, Billy blurted out. Tell us. Agnes got up and turned off the lights. When she sat down, the couch groaned under her weight. The two boys sat cross-legged on the floor, facing her. All right, she said, clearing her throat. In some towns, people don't lock their doors at night. But in this town, nobody goes to bed at night without making sure the doors and windows are locked up tight. There are some very good reason for that. It's believed that Madman Stan, nobody knows where he really comes from, but they say he lives in the cemetery sleeping among the tombstones. Madman Stan will settle for a man or a woman. He likes little boys and girls very much. More than anything else in the whole world, he likes little boys. They are his favorite. He takes victims back to the cemetery, and nobody talks out loud about what he does to them. But I'm sure you could imagine. They're never seen again. People who live near the graveyard say they hear screams at night. Horrific, terrible screams. Plenty of people have seen him late at night. From the house to house, checking on every window and door to make sure they're locked. Looking for the one that isn't. And then when he finds one, he goes in. That's why everybody locks their doors and windows up tight. Now, like I said before, it's time for bed. That's all? That's not a story. You're right, it's not a story, it's a warning. I told you to go straight to sleep. And if I hear so much as a peep out of one of you, I will lock the doors so Madman Stan gets in. 10 minutes later, the boys were laying in bed, wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan in complete darkness. It wasn't true, Rich said. Of course not. She was just trying to scare us. All of a sudden, the bedroom door flew open. The boys almost jumped out of their skin. Agnes was standing in the doorway. What did I tell you about talking? She said. Just for that, I'm gonna unlock the front door. She slammed the door shut, leaving the boys in complete darkness again. They lay in the bed shivering and clutching into their pillows. They listened to her heavy footsteps walking down the stairs. It's all your fault. It's all your fault, Billy said. Why don't you keep your big mouth shut? I'm sorry. She's gonna unlock the door, Billy whispered. You don't really believe in Madman Stan, hissed Richard. I don't. What are you scared of? I'm not. Just shut up before she comes back. The boys listened in silence, staring at the ceiling. They tried to fall asleep, but they couldn't relax. Now, with the front door open, all they could think of was Madman Stan coming to get them and dragging him off into the graveyard to do some unspeakable things to them. Billy got out of bed, and his heart was beating fast. He eased open the door and peered through the crack. The coast was clear. What are you doing? I'm going to go lock the front door. He slipped down into the hallway, crawled down the stairs as quietly as possible, and when he got to the bedroom, he tiptoed around the corner and checked the front door. It was locked. Agnes had been lying. She didn't lock it after all. Billy got down on all fours and crawled down the hallway. and when she came to the living room, she peered around the edge of the doorway. The television was off. Agnes was lying on the couch. He could only see her butt. That big mound of pink the big mound of pink lay where there was a beached whale. That's derogatory. But she's also evil, so he inched forward until he could see her face. Her eyes were shut and her mouth was hanging open. She didn't make a sound. She wasn't moving at all. He couldn't tell if she was asleep or dead. Hours after the boy had awakened by the sound of the banging on the bedroom door, all of a sudden the burst door opened to let out a terrifying scream. Their father was standing in the doorway, and he switched on the light. "It's okay. Hey there." Mother appeared in the doorway, sighing a breath of relief. "What's going on?" said the father. "We came home. The front door was wide open. Where's the babysitter? There's no sign of Agnes anywhere. What happened? Where did she go?" "Maybe Madman Stan got her," Rich whispered. Billy looked up at his parents and nodded. "Yeah, sure," he said with a malicious smile on his face. "Madman Stan must have got her." Hey, what's up? Stacy Flesh Girl, how's it going? Oh, we should totally do this together. That'd be an awesome collaboration. Hey, what's up, Jay Lawler? Have a good night. Take care. Yes, this is a story. Have a good night, Jennifer. I'm doing fantastic. Just relaxing here. Trying to read the comments. Just continuing with this awesome live stream. About an hour and 38 minutes into this. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much for the views. Thank you so much for the likes. I really appreciate it, guys. We've had over 150 views on this stream so far. Super awesome. "17 people watching. Thank you so much. I've been redoing scary stories every night except for the last 2 nights. Been crazy, but I'm doing it every day until my birthday." Oh, that's awesome. Hey, what's up? Marquillo Pedro, how's it going? What's up, awesome person? How you doing? Marika Pedro. Sorry, Marika Pedro. I'm horrible with names, so I do apologize. But welcome, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Just doing some scary stories. How's the stream so far, guys? Are you enjoying it? Yes, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. I really appreciate it. Cool. Some of the ones I was reading were true. Some of them are labeled true, some of them are not. This one, per se, was not. I don't believe this one was true. Yeah, this is just a fictional story. Yeah, I think the kid did it too. So this one is about an urban legend, but before I read it, I'm gonna go get a little bit more coffee so I can go finish this stream. I've been exhausted, guys. Sorry. But I'll be right back, and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay. Just a brief intermission, guys. Thank you guys so much for the 19 people watching. I'm really appreciate it, guys. You guys rock. All right. Here we go. Yeah, Mother Nature, I would love to set that up. Mother Nature, are we friends on Facebook? I think we're friends on Twitter. I'll definitely be in contact with you. Perfect. Alright guys, I'm back. So I just needed to grab a little bit of coffee. Little double shot of espresso so I could keep the stream going. Okay, cool. We'll definitely be in contact, and maybe in the next couple weeks we'll set something up where we can do a little collab. We can do was the haunted house was the house with the haunted mirror a true story? That one I think they said was a true story. Hey, what's going on, police? Or I always say police job. Hey, Misty, how's it going? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining, guys. I really appreciate it. Halloween is my birthday. Oh, that is so cool. I'm jelly. I wish my birthday was on Halloween. That was awesome. That would be awesome. My life would be complete then. John, where do you get your source of your stories? So the source of my stories are for scaryforkids.com. But they're not kid stories. Let's just put it that way. God, Lord. My parents used to celebrate my birthday on Halloween. Nice. So this next one is about an urban legend. It's not a true story. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. 21 people in the house. Thank you guys so much. Aw. A girl had vanished. Or, sorry, it's a girl. A girl had finished nursing school and started to work at a new hospital. Although she loved her job, she found it difficult to get along with the people that she worked with. They were mostly young doctors who had just finished medical school, and her problem was that they were delighted to pull pranks on each other. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to read the chat. Your daughter is on the 22nd? Oh, wow. Well, happy future birthday to your daughter. She found it difficult to live with them in a residence next to the hospital because they stayed up late at night and made too much noise. The nurse worked long hours and needed all the sleep that she could get. She never complained about the behavior. The mischievous doctors just laughed in her face and told her to shut her fat mouth. The nurse eventually had to report the young doctors to the hospital manager, and they got in all sorts of trouble. The doctors began to really hate the nurse and spent days devising a plan to get revenge on her. Finally, the doctors came up with a really sick prank to pull on the nurse, and the others gleefully agreed to help. That night, they broke into the mortuary in the hospital basement and sawed off the arm of a corpse. They sneaked it into the nurse's bedroom and put the severed arm under her bedclothes. They placed it at the bottom of her bed so that when she laid down, her feet would touch it. Chuckling to themselves, they stood around the hallway waiting for the young nurse to go to bed. As the girl went to the bedroom, the doctors had to stop themselves from laughing out loud. The nurse was suspicious of their behavior, but she was too tired to care and went to her bedroom, closing the door behind her. The men waited impatiently in the hallway for the nurse to find the severed arm in the bed, but nothing happened. There was no screams, no angry yells, and only silence. After a while, the doctors got fed up with waiting around and decided to turn in for the night. They assumed that they had placed the severed arm too far down the bed and the nurse had not felt it. The next morning, they woke up and the doctors went to check on the nurse. Receiving no answer, they knocked on the door. They turned the handle and went inside. The room seemed eerily quiet. The doctors searched the nurse's bedroom, and when they opened up her closet, they were greeted by a horrible sight. The nurse was curled up in the corner of the closet. Her hair had been turned completely white, and her eyes rolled back in her head as if she had gone totally insane. Her face looked like it had aged 20 years, and worst of all, she was chewing on the severed arm. Ooh. What do you guys think about that story? Yeah. Zombified indeed. Creepy as hell, and I love it. Pretty cool one. This is not a true story, just FYI. Jerry was driving home late at night when he saw a young girl waiting by the bus. He stopped his car and told her that he didn't think it was the buses were going to run that late and offered to give her a ride. The fall air was getting chilly, so he took off his jacket and gave it to her. Jerry found out that the girl's name was Mary and she was on her way home. After an hour's drive, they arrived at her home and dropped her off by the front of the door. Jerry said goodnight and went home himself. The next day, he had remembered that Mary still had his jacket. He drove to her house, and an old woman answered. John told her about the ride that he had given to her daughter Mary, and had just come back to get the jacket that he had lent her. The old woman was very confused. John noticed a picture of Mary on the mantle. He pointed and told the old woman that was the girl he had given a ride to. With her voice shaking, the old woman told Jerry that her daughter had been dead for many years and buried in the cemetery a few hours' drive from here. Jerry ran to his car and drove to the cemetery. He found the jacket neatly folded on top of the grave. The name on the gravestone was Mary. Well, that's just another little short story. Is this a resurrection Mary story in Chicago? I have no idea. This is based off of a true story. A married couple was living in a small house in Japan with their son and daughter. The son was very angry with his sister and wanted to play a really nasty prank on her. He decided that he would secretly videotape her on the toilet and post it online. He wanted to humiliate his sister in front of her friends. The boy hid the video camera under a paper towel in the bathroom. Minutes later, his sister went to the bathroom and locked the door behind her. She never came out again. Her mother started to wonder what was taking her so long. She banged on the bathroom door and called the little girl's name, but got no reply. Worried, she told her husband, and eventually they managed to force the door open. And what they had found inside the bathroom filled them with horror. Their daughter was laying in a pool of her own blood on the tile floor. She had been stabbed to death. Her face was so sliced up she was unrecognizable, and her tongue had been cut off. There was a bloody sickle laying on the floor beside her. The police were called immediately to come investigate the scene. Inspecting the bathroom, they found that it posed a mystery. The door had been locked from the inside. The windows had been securely latched, and the bathroom was so small that nobody could be hiding inside, laying in wait for the girl. So how was she murdered? The police saw the only possible entrance was a small vent that measured 10 by 10 inches. Nobody could fit through such a small space. The police were absolutely stumped. They could not figure out how anyone could have gone inside and killed that girl. The police carefully dusted the sickle for fingerprints, but unfortunately found none. At this point, they felt the case would never be solved. They questioned the mother and the father, but when it comes to time to question the son, he was nowhere to be found. They searched the house and eventually found him curled up in a wardrobe. His eyes were wild and he was sobbing uncontrollably. His hands were shaking violently. They noticed he was holding a video camera. Unable to question him, the police decided to review the videotape, and what they saw would terrify them for years to come. They pressed play on the video camera, and the screen showed the little girl sitting on the toilet. And when she finished and stood up, the police noticed some movement in the small vent behind her. A tiny figure emerged noisily from the vent. It was carrying the sickle. The police could hardly believe what they were seeing. A figure measured only about 6 inches in height, and it jumped into the girl's back before she had a chance to scream. It sliced her throat open with the sickle and began to stab the girl until she was dead. But the horror was not over. The tiny figure sliced up the girl's face and cut out her tongue. Afterward, the figure approached the camera. Figure's face was that of a gnarled and wrinkled old woman. It looked directly into the lens and hissed, "You're next." Then the tiny figure disappeared and went back into the vent, carrying the severed tongue of the little girls. After watching the videotape, the police officers wiped their tears from their face and vomited onto the floor, and even lost control of his faculties and pooped in his pants out of sheer terror. Today, the case remains unsolved, and the tiny woman has never been identified. The police tape still exists, but the police refuse to release it to the public. It sits in an evidence locker in a police station. The police called the case the sickle mystery and refuses to discuss it with the media. Oh, wow. That's crazy, Jessica. You heard about that story before? Hey, Blue Idaho, how's it going? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. So this is about a urban legend once again. Could be true, could not be true. I'll let you decide. There is supposedly a street in Oklahoma City called Carey Place, where rumor has it... Oh, man, it is cold in here. My mom has it like Arctic cold in this house. Okay. Rumor has it that this girl named Carrie was murdered, and to this day, late at night, you can see her ghost walking around or playing in the backyard. As the story goes, in the 1950s, when little Carrie stayed after school one evening to play on the swings, while playing alone, she was spotted by a crazed man carrying an axe. He approached the little girl, and she managed to escape the evil man's clutches and ran down the street, screaming for help. The little girl ran from house to house, pounding on the doors and windows. Begging for people to let her inside. Unfortunately, the residents were all too terrified to have their doors be open for the little girl and the axe-wielding murderer as he chased her down the streets just as she arrived in her own home. On her own porch, little Carrie was murdered by the man with the hatchet. The killer chopped off her body and stuffed her remains in a flower pot that stood outside of her door. According to the legend, the white porch of little Cassie was completely covered in blood. No matter how many times her parents washed and scrubbed it, the stains could not be removed. To add to the spookiness, little Carrie's body parts are said to be buried in the backyard of the Hatchet murderer's house, and the neighborhood remained Carrie's place in her memory. But shortly after the murder, something strange had happened. Every house on the block where the residents had ignored Carrie's desperate pleas for help as she fled from the killer. These people in their homes wake up one morning to find that their front porches had been painted red. People say that these porches were painted red by the ghost of little Carrie to mark their sign of their guilt for the little girl's death. Carrie, not Cassie. Today, people have driven by the house in the daytime say that the area is odd, creepy feeling, and that the windows of the hatchet house have carvings and the shutters in the shape of hatchets. They also say that the school swing set has been swinging on its own ever since. People have reported hearing the haunting screams of the young girl echoing in the moonlit street. Are you wearing a BMW hat? Yes. This hat is actually from the BMW driving school. This is not my work hat. This is a performance driving school. Yeah, I work for BMW. Let's see. Oh. Every Halloween, local children flock to the historical district of Carrie's Place, to try to find the notorious house of the hatchet cutouts in the shutters. They go from door to door trick-or-treating, but when people open their doors and saying trick-or-treat, the kids ask, "Can little Carrie come out to play?" Oh, gotcha. I might have said Cassie by accident. Yeah, I often wear a hat, and this is the only one I could find right now. Brand name clothing. Let's see. Trying to find another good story here. This is a really short story. According to the legend, every Halloween, a strange and grotesque old lady roams the streets, preying on children who are trick-or-treating alone. Some call her the Leg Woman. Others refer her as the Leg Monger. One boy was on his own and hearing rustling in the bushes next to him. An old woman with stringy black hair and a hideous wrinkled old face emerged from the undergrowth. The boy, startled at what he had seen, she was holding the severed leg in her hands and waving it in his face. "You want a leg? Do you want a leg?" The boy assumed that it was a Halloween prop, but the woman was so disturbing that when he was backing away from her, she persisted, asking him over and over again if he wanted a leg. Finally, the boy said, "No, I don't want a leg." The group of children and adults who were nearby heard a horrific scream ringing out through the darkened street. They rushed around the corner. Oh, nice. Yeah, BMW is really popular in Forza. They rushed around the corner and got the shock of their lives. They discovered a young boy laying on the ground in a pool of his own blood. His right leg had been completely ripped from the hip. If you meet the leg woman on Halloween night, be careful. She'll come up to you and ask, "Do you want a leg?" If you answer no, she'll tear yours off and disappear. If and disappear. If you answer yes, she'll grab you and try to attach the severed leg she is carrying to your body. The correct answer is I want both of my legs. Hey, welcome back, Jay Lawler. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, the cool thing is I got to go to the BMW race driving school, and we actually got to take those cars that are on Forza sideways at well over 100 miles an hour. It was a lot of fun. It definitely didn't help my preferred way of driving, which is going fast. Thank God I have a slow car. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. Oh, nice. So these, I don't think these are actually true stories. 4 girls were walking home from Halloween in 2002. This actually might be real. They were walking by an old abandoned factory that stood in a field. The factory was said to be haunted by the many people in the area who refused to set foot inside. Be haunted, and many people refused to set foot inside of the factory grounds. Whoever wrote this has the worst grammar. When they got to the middle of the field, one of the girls said it would be fun to explore that old factory. One of the girls was scared at first, but eventually one of them agreed to go, and just for fun, they would tell their friends at school about it. The 2 girls climbed over the fence, and the other 2 girls. After a few minutes had passed, 2 remaining girls started getting worried. Suddenly, they heard blood-curdling screams coming from the old factory. It sounded like their friends. Terrified, the 2 girls ran all the way home. The 2 girls went to the factory, were never seen again. The factory still stands. They say that if you dare to enter on Halloween night, you will vanish too, never to be seen again. It could be true, or it could not be true. Okay, so that was a tale. So that was not a true story. Oh. Yes, the Isaretta. Oh god, it's been a while since I've seen one. Is that sorry. That's that goofy looking car, isn't it? Yeah, it's like the weird little bug car. Had 2 goofy wheels in the front and wider stance in the back. Kind of a trippy little car. I've never seen one in person, but I've heard they're pretty cool. They're super collectible for European cars. If I had a dream European car, it'd probably be a Ferrari Dino. But my ultimate dream car is a 59 Corvette. That would be amazing. That or a 69 Camaro Z28. Dark gray, black stripes. Possible red interior. A guy can dream, right? Hey everybody, John, which car was that the weird BMW merch? Or with 3 wheels. Yeah, 62 split windows, a gorgeous car too. Your dream car is an i8? That's so funny. I actually just sold a 2020 i8 off of the showroom. It was a pure edition. It was $183,000 car. That was my one claim to fame. Yeah. Pretty wild. That was the most expensive car I've sold at BMW, and probably the most expensive car at BMW I will ever sell. Oh, the GTR Golf is nice. Yeah, the guy traded in a 2015 M6 for the i8. But the M6 was like almost in pristine condition. The guy had only put like 24,000 miles since 2015. I was kind of mind blown. I was asking about the 3-wheel car. I don't know if it's 3 wheels. I think it no, it is 4 wheels. Military grade Humvee. Hell yeah. Move over, traffic. I love an Aston Martin DB11. That is a gorgeous car too. If I had a European sports car crush, it's on the Aston Martin. I love how they look. I love the sound they make with the V12. Oh man, those are gorgeous. The DB11, I think the DB11's a 6.5 liter V12 or something like that. We have a V12 BMW on our lot right now. It's a M760i, and it's a 2020 model, and it's beautiful. It's this like dark midnight blue on ivory white interior. It's got white carpets, massage seats. Car is sick. Sorry, I got off topic. Sorry, guys. Oh yeah, love, love, love. All right, have a good night, Christine and Sun Go Squad. Take care and have a great rest of your night. Yeah, I've been live for quite a while now, 2 hours, I think. Almost 200 views on this stream. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. My dream car is a 63 Volkswagen with a 40 to 50 horsepower 4-cylinder. Yeah, those old Volkswagen Beetles are cool cars. TCTV is in the house. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, it's officially morning here now in Central Coast of California. Alright, so let's find another story. I don't like that story because it just. Let's find a. There's a lot of different stories here. I just looked to see what the most expensive make. What is the most expensive make and price? This is a Bugatti La Vittoria, 19 million. Jeez, that's crazy for a car. Yikes. A white. Okay. Let's see how long this one is. 3 minutes. Okay. From the time I was old enough to notice things, I didn't like that house. I was afraid of the upstairs and never felt safe. Mother always kept the light burning at bedtime because I was afraid of the dark. One evening when I was 9, my mother went downstairs. I was asleep in bed. I was expecting Mama to come in at any moment. When I heard the front door open, my sister called out, "Hello? Mama?" But there's no answer. She heard footsteps, but they didn't sound like Mama. Her footsteps were light, but these were heavy, like a man. "Who's there?" my sister called. There was no reply. The footsteps continued to come up the stairs, and I wandered into the bedrooms, but when my sister called out again, "Who's there?" the footsteps had stopped. She was young and afraid, and she didn't know I was she knew I was sleeping up there alone. She took the lamp and searched all the rooms. She even went into the attic, but didn't find anyone. My sister went back to the dining room. As soon as she sat down, the footsteps began again. They came down the stairs into the darkened kitchen, and the door of the dining room where my sister was sitting slowly began to open. She was scared out of her wits. "Get out!" she screamed. The door opened slowly, and the footsteps moved into the kitchen towards the front door. She heard the door shut, and she ran up to the window to see who it was. There was nobody in sight. There were no fresh footprints in the snow. She realized that whoever or whatever had walked in, it wasn't human, and she huddled on the couch and waited for Mama to come home. Not long after that, we moved out. But something strange happened before we left. My sister and I were in the living room when all of a sudden we heard terrible groans. It sounded like somebody was in agony. These groans seemed to be coming from the cellar. It was so loud that the dog started to howl and the hair stood up on the back of her neck. She would always go. She would always go anywhere with me, but I tried to coax her to come down into the cellar with me to investigate. She would not go. The cellar was well lit, so my sister went down, following the groans until we came to a little alcove, and there was the groans ceased. I wanted to dig right there on the spot, but there was no time. I felt that if we had, we would have found the cause of our troubles. Perhaps somebody's bones were buried there. We moved away soon after that. And my mother would never ask me to, my mama would never let me ask people living there today if they had heard anything. We are so glad to be out of that house. See ya, Jay. Sorry, guys. I'm just responding to a message somebody sent me. Sorry, guys. I had a friend message me, that's all. I apologize. In case you didn't know, I'm actually half Swedish. Oh, very cool. Hey, Gemma, how you doing? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you to all the awesome people here. Alright, let's find another story. Thank you so much for the 21 people in the house. I appreciate it. Oh, that's awesome, Gemma. I'm so glad to hear. And this is based on a folk tale. Gabriel Fisher spent the evening in the pub with his dog Trotty by his side. It was before midnight when he realized that his last drink, it was before midnight when he finished his last drink and started for home. Outside, it was cold and frosty and as silent as the grave. He saw a figure moving in the distance ahead. A man walked down the road with his dog. He saw it was a woman walking in front of him. She was carrying a basket on her shoulder. It was covered with a white cloth. When he caught up to her, he went to see who it was, but in the dark, she was all bundled up against the cold, and it was hard to see her face. Trotty started to growl at her. "Good evening," Gabriel said. "What brings you out so late?" The woman did not answer. They walked out in silence for a while. Gabriel said, May I carry your basket for you?" Not a word. The woman took it off her shoulder and handed it to him. From inside the basket, he could hear a small voice say, "That's very nice of you." And it was followed by wild laughter. Gabriel was so startled he dropped the basket on the ground. The white cloth slipped off and rolled out a woman's head. He looked down at the head and stared at the woman. It's your head!" he cried in horror. His dog Trotty gave a howl and fled in terror. The woman stopped to pick down her head, and Gabriel took off running too. The woman chased after him, holding the head in her hands. He could hear the footsteps behind him. She was gaining, and then he looked down and noticed something rolling alongside him. It was the severed head. With a ghastly laugh, the head rolled in front of him, trying to trip him up. Gabriel managed to jump over it. He could hear it, the head slapping behind him as he was running. He could also hear the footsteps of the woman. And then the head sprang in and sank its teeth into the ankle. Gabriel screamed in pain and shook the head off. He tried to run faster, but the woman's body and the head stayed right on his tail. The head sprang into the air and bit into the other leg. He let out a scream and kicked the head away. And just then, Gabriel came to a small stream. With a mighty effort, he leaped across it and kept on running, not daring to look back till he got home. His dog Trotty was waiting at the house until he returned. Gabriel looked back into the darkness, but the headless woman and the severed head were gone. Thank you, Gemma. I really appreciate it. Got a school run to do. Oh, okay. Gotcha. That laugh sounded like my ex-wife. Or my ex giving me shivers. Aw, thank you, Will the Rocker Will. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. I really appreciate it. How is everybody thinking? What is everybody thinking of the layout, the After Dark? Do you want me to continue to do this in the future? What would you guys like? I'm trying to make some changes to my channel to make it look professional. I'm always trying to revamp everything. Any suggestions that you would offer? I know it's late at night. The layout rocks. Oh, I'm so glad that you guys like the layout. Oh, nice. Keep doing it, looks great. Keep background. Keep background? Okay. Here, after door. I'd also love more meditation. Oh, yes. I will be doing the meditation streams. I'll try to do a meditation stream every Sunday if I can after work. How about that? I think you have a bit. I do have some of my merch. I can go show you guys some of my t-shirts. If somebody could help post my link merch. I'm about to design all new merchandise that's actually going to be from Streamlabs. They have a partnership now here on Streamlabs, and it actually will cut the cost of how much it is, and it will be all new designs, and it will be more affordable to you guys, and it will actually make me more income because they're able to mass produce it a lot better than Teespring is. Thank you. I love that you're getting us more involved in your channel. No problem. I have a 3D printing. I have 3D laser printed moonlight in my bedroom that helps me to sleep with sound. Oh wow, that's crazy. That sounds awesome. Yeah, so I'm gonna have all new merchandise, courtesy of Streamlabs Prime. It's a new program through Streamlabs that will actually help you design your website for you. Even though I already have a website, which is www.hsflparanormal.com, but I can actually integrate this to my Streamlabs, and but yeah, it's gonna be pretty awesome, guys. Yeah, so I'll grab one of my t-shirts just so I can show you guys. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this well, but these are the current t-shirts that I have. So these are the current t-shirts that I have with my logo. I have men's, women's, and kids t-shirts, jackets, hoodies, socks, iPhone and Android cases right now on my Teespring. And then on the back here, it says Helping Spirits Find Light. That's what HSFL stands for. And yeah, pretty simple shirts. Has my logo on it. So there you guys go. I didn't buy a lot of my own merch. I just didn't have the money at the time. You don't have any sayings on any merch. All my t-shirts right now have Helping Spirits Find Light. Just the t-shirts. Hey, Sharpshooter, how's it going, bro? Welcome back. But yeah, so the t-shirts are really, really cool. Oh, thank you, James. I really appreciate it, bro. Have a good night, Rich. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, I'm always trying to improve my channel. Merch is something that I need to work on. I need to work on publishing these next 2 videos. I got one mostly the way done. I still got about, I want to say, probably 40% of it left. And then... Oh yeah, the Halloween special. So look forward to that. And if you want to figure out where our Halloween special is, go to Presence of the Unknown and watch the stream from today. Joe and I did a live stream earlier today talking about different locations we had been to. And we were also talking about some future places. I'm going to try to change this real quick. Video capture device. So real quick, guys, I know I'm just going to show this real quick. But yeah, so if anybody missed my live stream from last night, I did a live test with the new Xbox Connect SLS camera. I got a full new rig. I caught some pretty crazy shit last night on this thing. So definitely go and check that out. But yeah, this was... Oh no, Smelly Michael. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. I really appreciate it. No, I'm still doing the scary stories. I was just showing some paranormal equipment that I had just built and ordered. So I finally got my new Connect system all functional. And yes, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. And this will allow me to see spirits as stick figures when I'm at haunted locations. And last night was an absolute success. I ended up capturing what looked like a small child spirit. And when I asked his name, he said Robert. And that blew my mind. And then somebody, I think it was Citizen Z, I was talking about this earlier, had said he looked like he was disabled. And I said, are you disabled? And he said, I'm handicapped. And that just absolutely blew my mind. Like, that was so cool. But sad. I mean, it was cool that I got the response. It was sad that that spirit was in such turmoil. And, I asked him if he could go into the light and get the help that he needed, and if he needed my assistance. But yeah, it was a pretty cool live stream last night. David, yeah, LOL. But yes, I will get back to the scary stories. Yeah. And you should see some of my paranormal live streams. Aw, Citizen Z with the $3 super chat. That is so nice of you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, guys. Just teasing. No problem. Alright, so this one is called The Attic. There was an old man who lived alone in the old house in the woods. He kept mostly to himself and rarely went into the town. He spent all day in the forest hunting for food, and when it got dark, he came home to cook his dinner. One dark night, the old man had finished his meal. He heard a strange noise. It sounded like something was moving in the attic. Yes, it was David. Yes, the disabled spirit. Do your thing. I love live streams. Awesome. I'm so glad that you like live streams. So I hope you enjoy this one. I got about 20 minutes left, and then I gotta head to bed. So And then tomorrow, I'm not going to be going live. I'm going to be working on trying to get this video finished. And I need to stay focused tomorrow, God willing. No, you're not invisible. Yes, the spirit's name was David. One dark night, the old man... Okay, I already read that. He picked up his gun and loaded it, trying not to make a noise. Then he took off his shoes and socks and slowly climbed into the attic stairs without making a sound. Slowly, the old man tiptoed up the creaky steps until last he reached the attic door, and for a moment he stood outside just listening, but he could not hear a thing. Then all of a sudden the door flung open. Just inside, he let out a blood-curdling scream. Ah! Why did he scream? You'd scream too if you had stepped on a nail with your bare feet. Really? That's how this story's gonna end? Okay, let's see. Joseph was running down the street, but he had no idea. His heart was racing and all he could hear was his heartbeat. Doo doo, doo doo, in his ears as he ran down the cobblestone street. Was he dreaming or was he awake? Was this really happening or was he just having a nightmare? He wasn't sure. The night sky was pitch black. The only thing that was coming from the road were the street lamps, which illuminated the dark and unfamiliar streets. He didn't recognize any of the streets. He didn't know where he was, but he kept on running. He didn't remember where he had come from, and he had no idea where he was going. He just knew that he had to run. Something was after him. Something horrible. Something unthinkable. He had to get away. If this was a dream, then why wouldn't he wake up? If it wasn't a dream, then where was he, and how did he get there? He turned the corner and there was an old man standing at the end of the street. Joseph ran up to him for help. The man turned around and grinned. His grin became wider and wider and wider, revealing razor-sharp teeth. It almost looked like shark teeth. That's when Joseph noticed his eyes. They were completely black. Shark? Did I say shark? Skunk? No, it was shark teeth. Joseph ran. He ran up the street and down another. He came to a dead end and quickly turned around and ran in the opposite direction. He kept looking over his shoulder, worried about the man with the teeth that was following him. Just then he bumped into somebody. He looked up and saw it was a policeman. With a sigh of relief, Joseph asked the policeman for help. The policeman turned around and grinned. The grin became wider and wider and wider, revealing a set of razor-sharp teeth. It almost looked like shark teeth. And that's when he noticed his eyes. They were also completely black, cold, and dead like the eyes of a shark. He ran. He jumped over a gate, and he ran down the narrow road into a darkened street. He realized the street looked familiar. He had been there before. He was sure of it. He lived there. He ran. He could see his house up ahead. Joseph awoke with a scream. He realized that he was back in his own bed. It had just been a dream. His heart was beating fast and he was covered in a cold sweat. But he was relieved to be home, safe and sound. His parents came into the room, a look of concern on their faces. "What is wrong?" "I had a nightmare," Joseph said. "What happened?" said his father. "I kept dreaming that there was people with shark teeth and I ran away," Joseph said. The mother grinned. Their grins became wider and wider, revealing 2 sets of razor-sharp teeth. It almost looked like shark teeth. That's when Joseph noticed her eyes. They were completely black, cold, and dead, like the eyes of a shark. "Why do you keep running away?" his mother asked. Can't you escape?" said his father. Does anybody else have the urgency to sing Baby Shark do-do-do-do-do, Baby Shark do-do-do-do-do, Baby Shark? No. Okay. So that was just me. Daddy Shark do-do-do-do-do. Had to get somebody, right? That song's gonna give me more nightmares than the story did. Oh no, that stupid song is horrible. We were thinking on the same level, Smelly. That is hysterical. I'm glad I'm not alone in this world. That sounds creepy. I was thinking hungry. Oh. I have an 18-month-old grandson. That's all I hear, right? Up till now, I have managed not to hear. I hear you. But guys, I got about 10 minutes left on this stream. So just giving everybody a FYI. I've been streaming almost 3 hours. Now that damn song is stuck in my head. Oh, I know, right? I'm trying to find some, like, true stories. So let's see. On March 2nd, 2011, a young girl named Suzanne was using her laptop. Her family had gone out to dinner, leaving Suzanne home alone at 8 p.m. The teenage girl was very popular at school. She was very socially active. She spent approximately 2 hours a day conversing with her friends on Facebook. Shortly after 10 p.m., Suzanne signed into Instant Messenger and under the name SusieQ13. Immediately, she received an ad request from a user named YoungLover69. Really? She added him and began a conversation. The stranger told her that he was an acquaintance of one of her school friends and asked if she could send him a link to her Facebook. Being a trusting girl, Suzanne delightfully obliged. The following excerpt was from their chat logs. "Love your pics. Wow, you're beautiful. You think so? You got beautiful hair. Well, thank you. You got beautiful eyes. Well, people do say they are my best feature. You got a beautiful nose. Aw, that's sweet. You got a beautiful neck. Okay, I get it, thanks. You got a beautiful body as well. Urgh. You got a beautiful heart. Okay, that's enough. Best thing of all is your internal organs are beautiful. Now you're just being creepy. I want to see them. Goodbye. I want to cut you open and look inside. Leave me alone. I just want to rub my fingers through your entrails. Stop messaging me, you freak. I just want to remove your organs. Deliciously, one by one. If you don't stop, I'm calling the police. And kiss them ever so lovingly. Stop. And your carcass and your intestines. You're a sick weirdo. And play with them for hours. I'm putting you on ignore, Susie. Susie! 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 What do you want? Blood all over me? You've lost control, you psycho. I can't see you. I can see you. Get lost. I can see you, Susie. Yeah, right. I'm watching you right now. No, you're not. Yes, I am. I can prove it. Stop. You're being such a loser. Peekaboo. I see you. If you can really see me, then tell me where I am. In your house. Well, duh. Chatting on your laptop. Again, duh. Sitting on your couch. Big deal. That's not hard to guess. Ask me where I am, Susie. Ask me where I am. Leave me alone. You're such a creeper. If you want to ask me where I am, I'll stop messaging you. Okay then, if that'll make you shut up. Where are you? In the house. Chatting on a laptop behind you on your couch. Or behind your couch. Later that night, Susie's parents arrived at home and found their house strangely quiet. Upon opening the living room, they were confronted by a horrific scene. Their room was covered in blood, and their 13-year-old corpse was laying on the middle of the floor, from being sliced open from top to bottom with their internal organs strewn all about. The police found a bloody knife, and on a laptop sitting behind the couch, the laptop was open, running instant messenger. The police were unable to retrace the laptop. It was purchased the day before the murder and had only been used once to access instant messenger. Today, Susie's murder remains unsolved and her killer is still on the loose. It wasn't a letter. That was actually a text message. But guys, I'm going to head out. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for those two who donated, Citizen Z and Smelly. I really appreciate it, guys. Much love and light. And you guys seriously rock. Pure character putting his hand in front of his mouth while blushing. What did one casket say to the other? Is that you, Coffin? Oh my god. Thank you so much. That is so funny. How about a salesman goes to a guy and really starts talking about this idea of getting a patent for a clear coffin. And the guy kind of scratches his head. He goes, I don't know if this is going to work. I think it remains to be seen. Get it? But guys, have a good night. Much love and light, guys. And remember to always keep it spooky, my friends. Cheers, and have a good one.